Hey everybody, it's Aluna Michaels, esoteric astrologer, talking to you here about the events of November 2019. Okay, so first things first, everybody's favorite topic, Mercury retrograde. Mercury went retrograde on Halloween, and it goes direct with the 19th of November. Then Mercury, it's not like Mercury doesn't really end when it goes direct. It's to catch up with itself a little bit, which actually, so a lot of people like to know when Mercury passes the point at which it turned around on, if that makes sense. So basically that would be retrograded at 27 degrees of Scorpio. So on December 7th, it's going to be 27 degrees of Scorpio again. So that time period between November 19th, when it goes direct, then it sort of catches up with itself. There's a lot of resolutions that happen and clarifications and stuff. And it's kind of one of the themes here of November is that the first portion of November is more interior. We could say muddled, but Mercury retrograde is about going within, and I'm kind of a broken record about this, but in less modern times, we had more time for reflection, and it seems like Mercury retrograde is showing us that, where we kind of clear out issues from, it could be interactions with people, because Mercury is about interacting and communicating. So we can have kind of like periods of forgiveness and releasing things or clarifying issues with people. It also can be a time of looking inside yourself to make sure that your actions are matching your goals or your value system, things like that, especially when Mercury's in Scorpio, as it is, because Scorpio is about your core beliefs, your value system. It can be about betrayals, trust, forgiveness, things like that. Be about financial integrity, issues around sexuality and bonding. So there's a lot of deep, vulnerable issues that Scorpio represents. So when Mercury is retrograding, it's like, let's think about those things. Let's think about what needs to be released or adapted or have better communication about any of those issues. So while it's retrograde, it's a good time to look inside, journal, meditate, even get information from dreams, because of that communication from inside, praying about answers, things like this. Then when Mercury goes direct, it can be a time to apply those things, or because sometimes it's like you get an idea and then you kind of rethink it while it's retrograde. You could, when Mercury does finally go retrograde, you can say, oh, like that might have been the right way to say that to somebody, or you can get more fine-tuned in what you want to express once Mercury is direct. The other thing that's going to go on in late November is, so let me just begin by saying this too. The inner planets, like say Mercury, is very close to the sun. It goes retrograde for 3 weeks, 3 times a year. No big deal, but again, serves its purpose. The outer planets, because I'm going to talk about Neptune, the outer planets generally go retrograde once a year and then direct once a year. So Neptune is about to go direct. So it's been retrograde since August. Oh no, that's Uranus. I was going to say that was soon. It retrograded the beginning of May. Not that that matters all that much, but when Uranus goes, excuse me, now I got Uranus on my mind. Neptune goes direct at the end of the month, the 24th. It's kind of right around Thanksgiving, right? Neptune clarifies issues. So that's especially being able to wait, till that Mercury really starts going, to really get clear about what are proper expectations of other people or yourself and things like that. But this can also lead to a lot of good times with family, like just going Thanksgiving and then into the holiday season, about being able to let things go that aren't important, or to be able to set strong limits that are important with people, but you feel that your value system is behind you. Because Neptune also represents spiritual values. Something about Scorpio and Pluto are more about kind of like feelings of fight or flight or life and death kind of things, or things that seem invasive and kind of harsh and dangerous. Whereas Neptune is like kind of vague feelings. So to have Mercury go direct in Scorpio and then have Neptune move forward, Neptune happens to be in Pisces, by the way, which again is about both of those things, about valuing your insights, being able to discern your fears from your truth, and then being able to reestablish connections with people based upon those new truths and interacting with people from their truth, So, but there's a lot of aha moments that can happen with that Neptune going forward. So that also is nice to maybe wait a little bit. Then again, that's November 24th. Other thing is Mars is going to go into Scorpio. And that's going to be November, sorry, I should have wrote that down. Oh, it's about November 19th, the day that Mercury goes direct. So Mars in Libra, which we're in most of the month of November, is more passive, sometimes passive aggressive about anger, because Libra wants everything to be okay, so it's not good at expressing anger directly. And again, that can be one of those things about waiting to see how you want to express the new way of being with people with the Mercury retrograde. So once Mercury goes into Scorpio, Mars goes into Scorpio, Mars is about being clear and direct. And again, Scorpio, the alignment with the values. And I think the only trick here is as Mars goes into Scorpio, it's going to oppose Uranus. And Uranus is very chaotic, it's very reactionary. Mars is very hot-tempered, of course, it's about anger. But Mars is also about clarity and fun, too, enthusiasm. But when Mars opposes Uranus, that's going to be, again, getting close to Thanksgiving. It actually happens on the 24th. And, excuse me, I'm sorry that I said that Neptune was going direct on the 24th. It's the 27th. I had both those dates in my head because I'm going to talk to you about them, but still it's around that same time. And that adds even more of this Mars going into opposing Uranus. It's like, let's say you are establishing these new limits with people or something, and then you get some feedback from them that you don't like. And it can be, bah! You just want to jump on them, or just being aware of the subtleties of the power dynamic, that you're starting to shift power dynamics in relationships, especially with family or, romantic partnerships or with kids, whatever. It's like kind of tricky. And that Neptune sitting there about to go direct, it's also vulnerable. It's just there's a vulnerability there that's also so it's a balance between the clarity and the vulnerability and being aware of other people's vulnerability. So it's an interesting time, an interesting month. So I'd say really having your meditation, daily meditation, but also doing some sort of spot check sort of meditations. And the time you're in the bathroom or something, okay, let me realign myself. And knowing that ultimately you're going to create more smooth connections with people, even if they at first don't like the shift that's happening because of this clarification, the exposure of denial of how you guys have been avoiding topics or things like that, again, that Neptune represents. So if you don't have the expectation that everything's going to go smoothly, that it could cause a dynamic change, then you don't get as reactionary. It's like if you were on a seesaw with someone and you get off and it's like, wah! They go down to the ground. It's like, what happened? That's kind of what's happening as you shift the dynamic. And so someone could be startled, but that could look like they're mad at you or that they throw out your idea or something. And so give everybody a time to adjust and, and approach clear but gentle, So knowing that there's a lot that will keep unfolding, and that's why when I talk about that Mercury being fully direct on December 7, there's this, leave it as this creative time that things are still working through. And you could, hear, especially if you're on the spiritual path and you're really looking at the best interest of everybody, people can come back and say, you're right. I thought about what you said. At first it made me feel weird or whatever, but the more I think about it, the more I see you're right. So not needing to be right at that moment when Mars is opposing Uranus, at the 24th, and that Neptune's a little cloudy because it's about to turn direct. And it's kind of like Neptune going direct is like people rubbing their eyes and waking up in the morning kind of thing. Like, give it a chance. But you're planting the seeds, and then you kind of tend those little shoots as they're coming up. And then by early December, it's like a lot of clarification. Even with work things, there could be issues there that you're bringing to somebody's attention, and it takes a while for them to get back to you about it or see how they could work out your grievance or whatever. If it was something about money or power dynamics at work, that can also work out that same way. But try not to push it, put it forth, and then let people examine it, Let me see what else. Well, Venus is in Sagittarius all through November, which is fun because one trick with that though is try not to overspend money, especially if it's the shopping season, because Venus is money and Sagittarius is kind of like whatever, So that's one thing to watch out for. But Venus is love, and Sagittarius is very forgiving. And Scorpio is the sign that really needs to work on forgiveness. It's the one that things can really get stuck in your heart or stuck in your soul, And so with Sagittarius being on the other side of Scorpio, it's like, just let it go. It's okay. Or think of how free you're going to be when you let this go, Even if it doesn't seem like it's going to clear up right away as you state what you need to state or whatever. So I think that it's nice that most of the month that Venus is in Sag, because it keeps you optimistic and open, and also being able to see things from other people's perspective. If you're looking at that sort of a thing, if you've had arguments with people. And I was going to say also, it can be really good if you need self-forgiveness, because that Venus in Sagittarius can help you experiment with feeling like you really love yourself and trying that out. And kind of one of those, Sagittarius is the planet like you try and you fall down, you get up and you go, with kind of laugh it off or something and know, hey, I'm learning a new skill, So as you're working with some of these checks and balances about power dynamics, there's something optimistic that you can keep in your heart as you're going through the month. So, okay. So if you want to get a session with me, it's alunamichaels.com or 248-583-1663. You can text me there at my phone number. Also got my book on Amazon, the spiritual gifts of the 12 astrological signs. That's it. And I hope you have a great month, and bye-bye for now.